the second ones to open. They were the first name tag. Okay, so make sure you introduce yourself first before I start the timer.
My name is Faith
John J.
Turley.
No.
George. You're John J.
My name is John J. And I'm a Federalist.
Boo.
I believe that the United States should ratify the Constitution.
Okay, how about you guys?
My name is George Mason, and I am an anti-federalist. I believe that the people in the United States should not ratify the Constitution.
Okay, you guys are up first. Are you ready? Here's your timer. Go.
One reason I believe this is because I believe in a stronger central government. Another reason I believe this to be true is because I believe we should be a unified entity. And I believe we don't necessarily need a Bill of Rights, but it would be a fine compromise to have a Bill of Rights. And Federalists, they're good people. And during the Revolutionary War, the Americans set up a new national government.
If we don't have a stronger central government, we won't survive as a nation for very long, because we can't get anything done, and we're not unified.
So they kind of got the short end of the stick as they got to be the guinea pigs. So now, 3 minutes for you guys for your opening arguments.
Alright.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
Alright. So I believe that instead of the federal government having the most power over everything, I think that the states should have more power over the central government, because if the government's given too much power, then it's just like it just wouldn't work for each and every state, because each state has their own needs, and they should have a say in the government. And if the federal government, since it would span over such a large area, it wouldn't know what would be best for each and every state.
So I believe that local government should have most of the power instead of the central government, because the central government would not understand what the states would want, and they would not understand each single person to what their belief is. They would only want to listen to what they want to know. I also believe that democracy I also believe that the rich should not be fully rich, because then they can take over the government.
We'll take it off. George Mason, I believe that each state should be able to have their own government instead of federal government having power over the states, because I feel like everybody should have a say in what the government does and what they want to do. And
I also believe that I want to encourage democracy, and that strong government should be feared, because the states wouldn't get the opportunity to say what they want to do.
The laws of nature or the laws of God, whose authority can be superseded by no power. Oh, that's a quote by myself.
Hey, time.
Great job, Mr. President.
Federalists, James Madison, are you ready for your opening argument?
Yes.
Okay, here you go.
Okay. We must ratify the Constitution because of the situation America is in. We are drowning in debt. We have no internal power, and we are on track to split into 13 different states. The United States is on track to split into 13 different entities. There's so much economic decay. Something must be done to resolve this. The Constitution is the answer to our problems. Also, I'm very frustrated with the lack of power. For example, Congress did not have power to raise taxes to pay for the army. Therefore, we are not doing too well, and the Constitution can solve these horrible problems of the in at this moment.
It is obvious in our past that the Articles of Confederation have failed us. We need a stronger central government, and the Supremacy Clause states that the Constitution has the supreme law over the land, which would bind us all together and give us something, give us a leader, and the laws and actions put in place of the government will be prioritized over the states, but will not remove their power. The power will be given to the states and to the people. The powers put in place will not be left unchecked. There is many checks and balances given to prevent tyranny. We need to give power to a system to maintain order and to keep America strong. Staying where we are at is not a we need to move forward together as America. We need to bind together to stay strong, and we must not look to the past, but we shall build together stronger in the future. The Constitution gives us the power and the rights to do so, to keep the power in the hands of the people, but also give us a stronger government.
Time. Okay, Patrick Henry, opening arguments. Ready? Go.
I believe that the people of the United States should not ratify the Constitution. One of the reasons I believe this is because I fear that the new national government will be too powerful and thus threaten individual liberties. Another reason I believe this is because I want the states to have more power. Finally, I also believe there should be a Bill of Rights because we just recently freed ourselves from the British, so we should have rights. I know not what others may choose, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
So, as we said before, or as I guess I said before, it's Patrick Henry. I believe that the people of the United States should not ratify the Constitution because the national government would be too powerful and threaten individual liberties, and we all like our individual liberties, such as free trade, owning a business, and all sorts of fun stuff that if the government became too powerful, we wouldn't be able to do. And if we wouldn't be able to do that, you see, the country might have a quite large possibility of just falling apart because people wouldn't be able to do the things that they enjoy doing. And if people aren't happy, then the country itself really isn't happy. That doesn't sound like a nice country to live in, if you ask me.
The Constitution is to be ratified. There should be a Bill of Rights, because every human should have rights. If any government is to be established, the government's established, kind of like get power and can do whatever they want. So every human should have rights that are guaranteed to be given to them.
We are Alexander Hamilton, and we are Federalists, which means that we support the Constitution.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Hear ye, hear ye. I am Richard Henry Lee. And we are Richard Henry Lee. And you know what? We should not ratify the Constitution.
Okay.
Sorry, it's gonna get a little heated here.
Ready?
All right.
You guys are on. Go.
I'd like to take the first stab at this. So, one of the main issues is the powers of the federal government and state government. Now, this is a controversial topic, apparently. But as a Federalist, we believe, because there's three of us and one person, but as a Federalist, we believe that the national, or not national rather, but the central government should have more power than the state government. Because after all, we know that individual people are not very intelligent. Now, having one overarching government, having a central leader, or a higher up people is going to not necessarily control the people, but make their lives better because they have someone over them. Now, having the states have more power than the government, and your opinion about delegating the power to the central government. Might work for a time, but it's not going to work completely, simply because people in smaller groups do not have as much hold in the system.
Thank you for listening. Our president needs enough power to conduct foreign policy and enforce federal laws. This will give our president, the nation's president, enough power to limit his ability so our nation does not become the nation we desire to lead.
I believe the Bill of Rights is unrestricted to the Constitution because it only serves as a reminding what right we already know. Our country not to have everything in right. Yes, because our country people are the smarter thing that all the people in the country will accept it. But the country is simple a do you want to write it to facilitate our lives and adding a list of rights that are already known to us as humans is completely
Okay, time. Anti-federalist opening arguments. Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Go.
Thank you, congressmen, women, and staff of the North Iowa Christian School for this heated debate we seem to have with these here feddies. I didn't really want to go here, but we're going to go here. Central government's danger stranger, okay? It's a stranger danger. It's too sketchy to put all your power in just a select group of, the central government, just a few people. Why? Let's think, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ever heard of a monarchy? Sketch. And that can maybe lead to a dictatorship further down the road. I believe as Richard, anti-Fed, that the power should be spread across the states. Like I believe my buddy George Mason was saying, my colleague, that every state has their own, way of doing things. They have their own, things. So, I was going with that. But yes, so we believe that the power should be spread across the states. Otherwise, it could be too controlling, and we could be in a country that is, not good and sketchy. And yeah, nobody wants to live in that country. Second thing, I just have to say really quick. I do not believe that we should ratify the Constitution at all. But I do believe we should have a Bill of Rights. Why is this? Well, I think that as people, just in general, they need to know what their rights are, and we need to have a list of them for order and for, I don't know where I was going with that, but for order in general, so we know what our rights are, especially if there's a Constitution. If there's a Constitution without Bill of Rights, then that's just chaos, and nobody knows what their rights are. Thank you.
Okay. If we ratify the Constitution, there could be the creation of a monarchy on our hands. We've just got away from a monarchy. We don't need another monarchy on our hands. Because like I said, we don't want another monarchy. We don't want it to become a dictatorship. We would lose our individual rights and it would threaten our freedom. It would be just like we were having a king back when we got away from King George III. And then before that, we had so many tyrant kings on our hands. Like for example, King James, who we literally had to create the Magna Carta to try to keep him in line. And then he ignored it, but then others followed it. But still, we don't have rights if we turn ourselves back into a monarchy. We are trying to turn ourselves into something else. We're trying to turn ourselves into something better. If we lose our individual rights, we lose who we are. We will be basically not even part of humanity anymore. There will be turmoil and chaos and anarchy, and I do not want that. And if we did not just give state power to the state directly, the states individually, it would not work because the USA is a much larger landmass than Great Britain. Great Britain is much smaller and still has problems within them that is hard to control.
Okay, you will now have a break.
Don't talk as long.
Okay, I guess I can hear and get my notes. Federalist, you're on. Go.
How long do we have?
Well, now you have 254.
That's way too long. So one of your points was that we need more power to the states, but with more power to the states, it's like we have a bunch of individual countries and we're not unified as one country. And because of that, we won't survive in the international stage among the rest of the big countries who are unified. Too much power would not create a monarchy or dictatorship because there wouldn't be that much power given to them. It will be limited. The president will be limited in their power. The Constitution creates a republic. Balance of power is important. The president doesn't have as much power as Congress makes the laws. And the president fulfills them.
A stronger government would help protect citizens' rights and freedoms. If we didn't have a strong government, then our freedoms might be taken away from us, as there would be no one to keep people in check.
We do not need a Bill of Rights because the power of the government would not be strong enough to take away your rights. But it would be fine if we had one as a compromise. That's racist, yeah.
Let's go Federalists. Let's go.
Time.
Go for it.
Okay, George Mason.
Alright, so like like John Jacob here was saying, he was saying that if having each state have their own government, it'd be like having individual countries, which would make us unified, which I disagree with because we would still be unified if each state was given their own say or in the government, and we wouldn't need one federal government to rule over the entire country to make it unified. If each state had their own say in the government, it still wouldn't make us unified because the federal government it just should have all the power over every single state. And I also believe that Bill of Rights is very necessary because it would give each individual their own rights.
So George Mason is back in the House. I have fellow Federalists over there that say that there should only be one president and a small group that controls the country, but me being anti-federalist says that our state should have all the powers, so if the president denies or wants us to give something that we can't give, we can refuse. Okay, so I believe that states should have the utmost importance and the federal government shouldn't have all the power. Because if the government had all the power, then the Bill of Rights could not become something important for us. Because we would have to be controlled by somebody bigger than us and we couldn't decide what we want to do on an everyday basis.
Mic drop.
Time.
As the father of the Constitution, I believe that the Constitution will give every man a certain unalienable rights, those of freedom and those of choice, that the central nor state government can determine. The large form of republic is the ideal form of government. It officially balances majority rules and rights. Oh, majority rule versus majority rights. Minority rights, sorry. Okay, so the Federalist Papers do state in Excerpt 1, a firm union will be the utmost moment to the peace and liberty of the states as a barrier against domestic faction and insurrection. That is Federalist Paper number 9.
I'd like to respond to a common argument of our anti-federalist friends is that we'll have too much power and everyone will have no rights. And that is simply just not the case. Research, there's many Federalist papers that we have published that explains the effectiveness of this. And I'd like to read Federalist paper number 54 and also number 69, or excerpt 1. An elective despotism was not the government we fought for, but one in which the powers of government should be so divided and balanced among the several bodies of magistracy, as that no one should transcend their legal limits without being effectively checked and restrained by the others. That prohibits any kind of insurrection and tyranny inside of the form of government. And then the president will not become a monarch nor will become a dictator, and because he will have many checks and balances also that are in the hands strictly to the people. The President of the United States, this is Federalist Paper number 69, Excerpt 2, the President of the United States will be liable to be impeached, tried, and upon conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors, can be removed from office and would afterwards be liable to prosecution and punishment to the full extent of the ordinary course of the law. The person of the great King of Britain is sacred and inviolable. There is no constitutional tribunal to which he is amendable, and no punishment to which he cannot be subjected.
Time?
Oh my gosh.
Go.
So, one argument the Federalists have made is that, well, we can separate the powers of the government if it proves to be, too powerful. Or if your concern is that it's too powerful, we can separate the powers into different branches. And well, we disagree with this because you can give one branch of them, too much power. Eventually, that becomes like, the desirable branch to be in. The other ones become relevant. So, and also if you give one too much power, like they start to like be uncooperative with each other. They might not get the stuff that people want done.
You say you separate branches of government if there was too much power. But what if you're the one with all the power? Would you really want to separate it? Because I'm no judge of character or anything. But usually when someone's got a lot of power, they're not too keen on giving it up. And what if the people don't like you there, but yet you got all the power, so what can they do but say no?
Objection.
About a minute less.
So, he also made a point that the new government will be a republic. So, you can put anyone you want into office instead of, it being a monarchy, not really get to choose who rules over here. Well, people with special interests need their special interests taken care of and not be able to get the person they want into office because of popular vote. So.
Time?
Oh, thank you.
Go.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to address a couple of the points you made. So if my other part of me will go ahead and read the first topic.
President will not become the king because he will be limited.
Now, obviously, we don't want the president to have too much power and just end up in a monarchy like we tried to escape from. So, simply put, the president will be limited. We are going to, just like my colleague said, he's going to have checks and balances in place. Now, fortunately, with that, it is impossible for the president to get too much power because he has people making sure that he's not going to. Now, you're worried about him turning into a monarch, or the nation turning into a monarchy. No one person is going to have enough power to make that happen. Now, we as Federalists do want the president to have power because he needs to be able to conduct foreign policy and raise an army and stuff like that. But yes, obviously, we do not want him to have too much power, which is why we are putting these safeguards in place.
The Constitution will not limit the people, only the government. Because it has been specially designed by the people and therefore does not need a Bill of Rights.
So we briefly talked about the Bill of Rights. I believe that it's unnecessary simply because the rights that we are putting in are rights that people have in general. We do not need to write them down. There's no reason to write them down. The reason we're making a constitution is to have certain things in place for our specific country. The rights that would go in the Bill of Rights are human rights. We do not need to have them in the Constitution. To summarize, the president will be limited enough to not turn the country over.
Okay, Richard Lee Henry, go.
Sir, you made very clear the point that people are stupid. Quite frankly, I agree. And it's for that reason that we need a Bill of Rights. We need it. If people are incapable of knowing their own rights, then we must have a right paper thing that lists them. A Bill of Rights, so they are able to understand and comprehend what rights are theirs. I'm not done, I'm just sitting down. So, with that being said, of course, a Bill of Rights is needed, even if people understand basic human rights. What are basic human rights? Basic human rights by your standard, or by the leader's standard? The leader's standard that says, no more shall he have his musket. He will not be able to defend himself. I must have power. That is my human right. They shall have no human right. But if we have a Bill of Rights that says he shall have his musket, or the right to bear arms, then he may have his musket in time of need. So, Bill of Rights is much needed, and we are willing to compromise on a Bill of Rights.
Indeed.
Hear, hear.
Oh, yes. More on the Bill of Rights. You claim that the nation will not have enough, or I guess not the nation, but the central government will not have enough power to become a monarch. But if they just decide that their rights are no longer basic human rights, then their rights no longer apply, and they can have enough power to become a monarchy. They will just simply march their armies through the main streets of Plymouth and and take them on the morning sun. So, it is with this in mind that we must have a Bill of Rights. It is very essential to our basic human nature.
If the government's power is not limited, then it will, like I said before, it will create turmoil and anarchy. Even if they try to limit it, what if it's not just the president who is corrupt, but the judicial branch as well as the legislative branch? Some of those people will not be able to be kicked out of office. They are in that position for life. If you have somebody who is corrupt,
Time.
So raise thy muskets and protect the Bill of Rights!
I am done!
On shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot!
Wait.
We win. Let's start us off.
Richard Lee Henry, start us off. You got 3 minutes for your closing arguments. Ready? Go.
Hear ye. We are all together. Richard Henry Lee.
The last thing we have to say is we don't need a central government that has too much power. We need the states to have we need the individual states to have their own government, but they are interconnected by the not as strong central government. If they have enough power, they could end up taking over the USA, and that's not what we want, because if we don't have enough individual rights, if our rights are not protected, then we will not have enough power to stop them from taking over the government and changing it to something like communism or something less, if there's anything less. Oh, I didn't think of something less, a monarchy. We already had a monarchy in England, and we barely escaped from it. It was a long battle, it was horrific. Lots of people, lots of great, brave people died. And especially, like, it kind of started with the Boston Tea Party. We had enough of the government from England and Great Britain controlling us, that we decided, you know what, we're not going to buy your tea. We want to buy our own tea. We want to get it from somewhere else. So we ended up dumping it into the harbor, and that's one of the things that sparked our interest in doing the Revolutionary War. And we ended up winning. Why? Because we wanted to be we wanted to have a stronger government, but we wanted to have a weaker central government, unlike England. We wanted to have states have their own individual power.
There you go.
You want me to go?
You go first. I can finish this off.
We think that it is most important to include a Bill of Rights. That is what we think is most important, and that is why I, Richard Henry Lee, not Hitchard, do not support the Constitution, because we think it is of utmost importance to include the people in all things government related. That is why we need a Bill of Rights, to ensure that the people's rights as citizens are protected and that they do not become infringed upon by the central government. And a Bill of Rights will ensure that. And so, if the Constitution is to be approved, a Bill of Rights must be included.
Indeed, Bill of Rights is a must and necessary. If the Bill of Rights is not in place with the Constitution, the government isn't protecting him, therefore our rights could change. Therefore, that could bring distress and agony, because people are going to have rights that they thought they had, but now they don't, because they're constantly changing, because the government's controlling them. Having a Bill of Rights lists off our morals, lists off things that we can do and things that our country is allowed. And if we don't have that, then it's gone in the dust. How much time do we have?
Here. Wow.
Okay, Alexander Hamilton,
Yes.
closing arguments. Are you ready, Jordan?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, go.
In conclusion, the Federalist Party is for the ratification of the Constitution. It will ensure a strong enough national government to maintain protection for the people, but also limited enough that will not over control the people of our great, intense new nation. The president will lead this great nation with enough authority to conduct our foreign policies and foreign trade, and also enforce our federal laws. But make no mistake, our new Constitution will ensure that the leader of our country does not have enough overwhelming power to convert our country into the one we escaped from. The Constitution, if ratified, will be good enough for our country as it is. So, adding a Bill of Rights, which should be known to the nation's people already, is 1, overwhelming, 2, very unnecessary. Our great, astonishing nation will stand strong.
Without it,
Thank you.
Y'all still got time.
You got 55 seconds left.
without it. In summary, Federalist Party is for the Constitution, obviously, because that's been proven over and over, because we think that it's going to be the best possible case scenario, and it's going to make our government strong enough to maintain our place internationally, but also it's going to provide fair representation for the people of our country. And that's the most important thing.
Hey!
We love you, Federalists.
Yes.
We
Go.
are John Jay, and we should ratify the Constitution.
Oh, surround sound?
The central government needs to be strong. With a strong central government, we can properly protect the citizens of our beloved land we like to call home. The president would have enough power to protect rights and freedoms, but the people would give him nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. You see, the Congress would make the laws and the president would enforce the laws. No man is perfect, which is why we need someone in charge with checks and balances to lead this country. Now, a Bill of Rights is unnecessary. Come on. We need to be better than that. We shouldn't limit ourselves to a Bill of Rights. We should open up our minds for new possibilities. Please share a quote.
That quote is by me.
Us.
Us. The Constitution was written by 55 educated and highly intelligent men.
Extremely intelligent.
Super intelligent men in Philadelphia in 1787. But it was written so that it could be understood by people of limited education and modest intelligence. And that's by John Jay.
Us.
About 35 seconds left.
35 seconds to clearly get across the point that we need a strong central government.
A what government?
Central government. As much as smack I've been talking about the Bill of Rights, I guess we could use them as a compromise.
What he's trying to say.
Time. Ready? Go.
Hello. Our name is Patrick Henry, and we do not support the ratification of this Constitution. To concisely conclude our previous statements, the states should have more power and their own central government. We could potentially have a loss of our own rights with this Constitution. Where was I? So, therefore, the Constitution should not be ratified. Sorry, right. We should also have a Bill of Rights to give each individual being within the United States of America
their own rights to follow. I don't know about all of you, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Yeah!
Sorry, give me 3 minutes to get our point across, because that's all we got.
That really is.
Anything other, James J?
Ready? Go.
Alright. In conclusion, the Constitution could lead to a loss of individual rights. It should not be ratified because each and every state has their very own say, should have their very own say in the government, so the federal government would not take over the entire country.
George Mason here. This would allow each person to have their own rights instead of one federal government having the most control. If necessary, a Bill of Rights should be included in the Constitution or compromise. So I ask you, my fellow Americans, to follow me on this long journey.
You're here.
I say that everyone wants to be as one person instead of separated because of one government, one president that could one day become a king. We do not want that. We want freedom, and we fear that evil experience flow between our veins. And if we have a president in our government and he controls our states and our country, he will have too much power and soon control what we do, our taxes, our tea, our trade between the states, and
What are we thinking, George? You didn't finish it.
and he will demand us to go to war even if we don't want to.
It's time.
You got 30 seconds.
All right, what's your guys' name?
James Madison.
You're gonna let a guy named James Madison run this country?
To conclude our overstatements, I'd like to say a quote by me, that all men are born equally free and independent and have certain inherent national,
Go.
All right, we are James Madison, Federalist, and in favor of the Constitution. My closing remarks are that of addressing your guys' concerns. I feel like we have thoroughly addressed every topic you guys have brought up. That of too much power that these president would have turning into a monarch or a king, and as well as the powers of the state government. I'm just going to dig into that real quick. All right, to readdress your guys' concern about the president having too much power, I have some documents I'd like to. There we go. All right. It is in our best interest to have a constitution and a president because, Excerpt 1, powers of the state government, Federalist Paper number 69, addresses a firm union will be of the utmost importance to the peace and liberty of the states as a barrier against domestic faction and insurrection. But if the union has been shown to be essential to the security of the people of America against this foreign danger, if it be essential to their security against contention and wars among different states, yada yada yada. If in a word, the union will be essential to the happiness and security of the people of America. All right, that shows the importance of the president. But to keep the power in the right hands, Excerpt 1 and 2 of Okay. This proposed constitution, so far implying an abolition of the state governments, makes them constituent parts of the national sovereignty by allowing them a direct representation in the Senate and leaves in their possession certain exclusive and very important portions of sovereign power. This states that you guys are concerned about the president having too much power, but the power is not in the president. The power is in the people and the states that are represented in the government. This is not the president running this country. This is us. This is the people running. Excerpt 2, but as the plan of a convention aims only at a partial union or consolidation, the state governments would clearly retain all of the rights and all the sovereignty which they before had and which were not by that exclusively designed for the United States. All right, that is my first topic. The second, economic advancement. This country needs to be the leader in this free world. We have came from England and shown that we are a free people, we are independent. But to maintain our independence, we have to have security. To be secure, we can't be divided into 13 different entities in our country. We must be strong and we must be united. A president serves that purpose by giving him power to enact laws, to raise taxes, to have equal and to get us out of debt. There is no trade in between these 13. I have 10 seconds. All right. Bill of Rights. You guys addressed that. We have no need for this. It is just a redundancy of the freedom that you guys already have.
Time.
Can I get
Federalists win.
Morgan, you ever just carry an entire game? So.